This is the story of my latest layout, and probably my last one. And it's the story of a station based in St Albans, which was the old St Albans Abbey station, but of course I can't repeat that exactly. So we built it, we called it Holywell Abbey. Now Holywell Hill is at the bottom of the main road from St Albans. So the Abbey obviously retains the name Abbey. And the reason for that is that the building of the Abbey station, which I've got, I was given the drawing of that exact building, and it is built to that drawing. This is the picture of the goods yard, which is not an exact representation of the one at St Albans, which was far too big to get onto a layout, and as was the gasworks. So there's only representation of those. Now we're looking at the station of the junction, which the line from the Abbey station comes down to, and that's Holywell Junction. So it's the junction of the branch line to St Albans. It is not an exact replica of anything, it's just picking up the name of what that was, how it's occurred.
This is a huge layout, Peter. Has it taken you a long while putting it together?
It has taken about 12 years, with a lot of assistance from people. In particular, assistance from Choney Joyce, who was an extremely good carpenter, who made the baseboards for me to fit tightly in the available space. And in all the 12 years since it was built, they have never moved. That is a picture of the up main line at Holywell Junction, with an express train passing through. And in the foreground you can see the branch line train arriving from the Abbey station to the junction. On the down line there is another stopping local train, and they're exchanging passengers or dispensing them at the station for the branch line, which will depart eventually after both the mainline trains have departed. And that train will then leave for the Abbey station via the intermediate station called Barneswood. Another picture of the branch train departing, going underneath the canal bridge. Round the side of the engine shed, and into the intermediate station called Barneswood. Now, why is it called Barneswood? Well, the intermediate station between Watford Junction and Abbey, the Abbey station, was actually Bricket Wood, and it was the only main station, a passing loop on that line, and I can't call it Bricket Wood because it's not straight. Bricket Wood would have been laid on a straight alignment. So this is on a curved alignment, but it is actually exactly the same track layout as the original Bricket Wood would have had.
This station serves the end of quite a community and a factory, which I think we decided produced wire.
Well, actually, we called them Hope Springs. We've dropped the Eternal, but Hope Springs Limited.
And Ethel's Cafe there, bound to serve wagon wheels.
Absolutely, and in the foreground you can just see the Scout hut. And this is scanning across the village, which is mainly lived in by the workers at the factory.
Now, it's not only steam trains on this layout.
There's a double-headed ex-LMS and early British Railways diesels, 10,000 and 10,001, which I did see quite a lot of in my youth. And on the other line, there is a mixed traffic train, parcels train. I think that's a parcels train, isn't it? Is it, David?
I think it may be, yes.
It's a parcels train. Now, there's a picture of the branch train heading back for the Abbey station, up underneath a tunnel. And round underneath a number of workmen's houses. And at the end of the house, you will shortly see, with a blue shirt, a man up a lamppost repairing the lamp, which had gone out.
Only because there was a baseboard division there and we couldn't span the wire across.
Well, do you want to say that, do you?
Why not?
You want to give the secret
The truth.
away, do you? Next scene is a train coming in from the Hatfield branch. And that was interesting because the terminus at St Albans was in fact a terminus of two branch lines, one from the LMS at Watford Junction and the other from the LNER at Hatfield. The passenger service on the Hatfield branch did cease many years ago, but the line was kept open for some years for freight trains. Now we move round further and we eventually come to a level crossing with a train of coal wagons going into the gasworks, hauled by a LMS early diesel shunter. As you can see there, the gasworks is not really a gasworks, it's really a gas holding operation because we don't have room to put a whole gasworks in there.
As the train goes along, it's passing yet more of the cameos that have been built into the scenery.
Including the farm, a primary school and a war memorial with a tin chapel.
Yes. What's the chapel called? St Wenred's.
St Wenred's, yes it is.
Never heard of St Wenred, of
No,
course.
we haven't heard of it.
That's his chapel.
Yes. Oh, the Minister's Austin 7 is parked at the side there. Now, in the picture here, you can see a very important building, probably the most important building on the layout. And that is known, it's a pub, obviously. It's known as the Peacock Arms, I can't think why. And it actually has on it a true Benskins Watford Brewery sign. In the background, you can see a Benskins horse-drawn wagon, which has brought some beer into the pub. And the driver has actually allowed the horses to have a drink, and he himself is sitting on the seat, having a beer. Glad to have it after a long hot day on the wagon. Well, in front of the Peacock Arms, there's an American Woody estate wagon. That vehicle is actually a model of the one that we actually had at my prep school in Aldenham. And I can even remember the number of plate of it. It was CYM 533.
That's a memory for you.
And it used to take us to away football matches, but it was an old American vehicle, wartime vehicle, and sticks well in my memory.
Well, the next slide is showing us about signals. And obviously signals play an important part on this layout. And you've had quite a lot of guidance.
Yes, I did. I had a lot of guidance from Derek Smith, who was a lifetime professional signalman with the British Railways, and he taught me a lot about signalling. And I think this is an aspect of which model railways often ignore, because they don't really know much about signalling. It's imperative to remember that signals can be seen visually. And the number of times I see a signal right on the exit of a tunnel is just unbelievable, because no driver in the world would be able to see that. These signals can be seen. They are correctly paced, as far as I know, so it follows correct procedure. The one big problem that you have in any model railway is distance. We can't create the distance in reality which occurs on the main lines now. So you have to make allowances for that. But the signalling on the layout is essentially correct, including banner repeaters at the station. The double-armed signal is now pulled off for an express train.
No,
well, actually, it's not an express train. It has pulled off for a freight train, a coal train hauled by an ex-London North Western
Super D.
Super D. And in the other direction, there is a mixed traffic train going through on the up line.
Now we're back to you and your controls.
And here is a lovely picture of the fat controller with his fingers on the button.
And these are rather special controllers, Peter.
They are indeed. I was lucky to acquire some of the pendant type controllers called pentrollers, which have been modified to accept amps and voltage and gives me an indication of the power that's reaching the track and how well the trains are behaving.
And very useful for fault finding when the occasional fault develops.
Very, very useful for that.
So, we come to the end of the presentation. What's the final step, do you think?
I think it's probably a beer, which we'll have to go over to the Peacock Arms to get.
A pint of Benskin's Best.
But I think we'd better go to a proper pub, because that would be very small.